Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us for our Sage Intacct live demo. Please don't be alarmed. I know I've sort of thrown up what is a PowerPoint presentation, but this isn't going to be death by slides on a Wednesday afternoon. I've really only got a handful of these. Really, the idea is just to introduce who we are and what gives us the right to talk about Sage Intacct. I'm going to get through these as fast as I can, really just to hand over to my colleague Hamza, who's going to take us through Sage Intacct. So I'm going to get going. I can see we've got a good number of people in here. So as a way of introductions, my name is Rory Healy. I'm a sales consultant with Vision 33. My role is really to speak with prospective new clients and sort of understand what it is that they use from a legacy finance system and the challenges that system presents to them as a finance team, but also to the organization. Is it hindering organizational growth, things like that. And really, I work with you over the course of the sales process to ensure that we've understood your requirements, make sure that Intacct is a good fit, and then bring you over as a customer, and then hand you over to our delivery team, which Hamza is a part of. So Hamza is our delivery manager here in the UK. He himself is actually a certified Sage Intacct consultant and has done many implementations throughout the course of his career. But as he likes to put it, he is also Sage through and through. So has not only worked with Sage Intacct, but also a number of other Sage products as well, such as Sage 50, their HR suite too. So very knowledgeable. He's also been on your side of the fence, actually having worked in finance teams, and actually has brought in Sage Intacct too as part of a project of a company that he worked in. So knowledgeable guy and really the best person to have run through the demo today. Now, in terms of who we are, I always say to our new customers that of course, it's important to make sure you bring in the right system. That, to be quite honest, a lot of finance systems today can do near enough the same thing. There are, of course, nuances and niches that a lot of these systems will provide. I think the biggest driving factor in your decision too will be the partner, because it is a partnership at the end of the day, and we really value those partnerships that we have with our clients. So, we've been working with Sage in particular for 30 years. So our central delivery team, between them, it's almost a huge amount of experience, working with Sage, and we very much bring a finance transformation consultative approach to new projects that we work with. We are a global company, so headquartered in St. John's in Canada, but with a UK-based office and team here, and of course in the US. So we've got consultant spread really across North America and the UK, but of course with localization as well. So Hamza and his team, for example, here in the UK. We work with over 1,500 clients. A good chunk of those are, in fact, Sage customers as well. And we're a very stable partner as well. The reason the financials up there is it's not to brag, as I like to put it. It's just to show you that we are stable. We're not going to disappear anytime soon. The last thing that you guys need is to go through an implementation of a new finance system, really only for your partner to say disappear 6 months, 12 months, down the line. So we're very secure. We've been around a very long time. And we are, in fact, actually the largest Sage Intacct partner globally for Sage. And we work with a plethora of different types of organizations. I think this is testament to the product itself, which I'll come to in a second. But there's loads of transferable knowledge here between each of these different organizations that we worked with that the team will bring to the table when they sit down with you. So I can see we've actually got a lot of not-for-profits today joining us. So very big sector that we work with, actually also a very big sector for Sage as well. But the team will sit with you and sort of advise of things that they've seen work, not just with other charities or other NFP organizations, but also with other types of organizations that they feel that could be a benefit to you. So there's a lot of sort of help that we provide in that sense. And in terms of Sage Intacct, the clear distinction here is that it's a best of breed finance system. It's not an ERP. What I mean by that is that you get, first and foremost, very strong financial processes and automation as part of the product. An ERP, you typically get, a financial module, but then you'll get kind of loads of other bits and pieces that you don't typically need. Might be inventory, for example. You tend to pay a lot more for those sort of systems too. And a lot of the time when we hear organizations who want to move off an ERP into a finance solution, they're unhappy because they're paying a huge amount of money for that system and only using, say, 20% of it. And for the most part, a lot of those ERP solutions can't do a lot of key accounting functions without having to, buy on add-ons. I actually spoke with an organization the other day, and they had to bring on a add-on for the system they're using because the system they're using can't do commitments without an add-on. So Sage Intacct is a cloud system. What I mean by that is that it was built in the cloud. So it's not one of these solutions that has recently made the jump to cloud, but you still have two ways of accessing it. Sage Intacct is accessible just through the internet and a web browser. So providing you have both of those, you can access Intacct really anytime, any place. It also works on the premise as a multi-dimensional accounting solution. I'm going to let Hamza walk through what that means, but essentially, Intacct moves away from you guys having a segmented chart of accounts. So you have very clean chart of accounts, but we leverage dimensions as a means of being able to tag your transactions. And this just allows for better reporting and real-time decision making. But the idea with Sage Intacct is it's been built with the modern finance team in mind. And the idea is that it's easy to use, so you can really hit the ground running, when you go live. But also, if you bring more people into your finance team, they can get to grips with the system pretty easily. Now, what we're going to be demonstrating to you today is really the core financials. So this is the kind of the part that everybody gets. So it doesn't matter what type of organization that you are, everybody gets core financials, and that's what Hamza is going to be running through. But this webinar by no means goes into, it really only scratches the surface of what Intacct can do, is what I'm trying to get to, because there's a heap of additional modules that can further enhance what Intacct can do for you. And there's a lot of vertical specific modules and functionality too. So as I say, I can see we've got a lot of charities who have joined us. So for you guys, that's things like fund accounting, tracking grants, partial exemption on the VAT side of things. There's a lot more that we can do. And typically what we like to do is have more focused demos with you, just to kind of go into those areas that you're more keen to see. But I really, Intacct is a specialized system depending on the type of vertical that you are. And what I mean by that is things like terminology, specific types of modules, reports. I hate to use the word fall out of the system, but when we go to provision the system based on the type of organization that you are, will already be readily available. And then it's just a matter of sitting down with you and customizing the solution to your requirements as a team and also an organization. But what I like to say here is time to value then is a lot faster. So implementation times for Intacct typically are 3 months, as opposed to some ERP systems that that are 6-9 months. So we can make sure that we get you up and running relatively quickly, and ensuring that you have a system that is catered to your requirements. The other added benefit is, because it is entirely cloud, you don't need to worry about things like on-premise servers, backups, redundancy measures. It's all provided for you. And that also includes upgrades. So as Hamza will sort of mention later, upgrades are done quarterly in Intacct, and it's done behind the scenes. Once you've logged in the next day, all the updates would have happened behind the scenes. Now, Intacct is suited for any type of entity. It doesn't matter if you're a single entity here in the UK, or a multi-entity in the UK, or perhaps a multi-organizational company worldwide. Intacct can cater for all types of scenarios. So it provides very powerful multi-book accounting, multi-dimensional, multi-currency, even consolidations, whether domestically or again internationally. The idea with Intacct is that you can scale and grow with it. So we have had customers who've come on as a single entity and have actually grown to become 3, 4, 5 sites here in the UK. In some cases have actually opened offices internationally as well using Sage Intacct, and that's something that we work with you to ensure that you have everything that you need. But of course, if you are just a single entity for now, absolutely fine. By no means is Intacct going to be too big for you. The idea is that we just tailor Intacct to what you need from a subscription point of view. And then lastly, we have our own in-house integration platform called Saltbox. So it's something that we've created and continue to develop here at Vision 33. But really the idea of Saltbox is that if you have other systems within your organization that you need to integrate with, so let's say a CRM or a fundraising or donation management platform, and you want information to be fed into Sage Intacct, we can look to integrate it through Saltbox. That is if an integration doesn't exist already, and it can work two ways. So integrations can be into Intacct, and we can also push data out of Intacct. The idea is that we move away from having data silos where data is just sitting in different places, and then you guys have to spend a lot of your time pulling that into an Excel sheet, map it accordingly, and then push it back into the correct place. So if integration is something that you also need to look at as part of your finance transformation project, then do speak with us and we can help you. We've got 30 plus industry connectors. Salesforce and HubSpot are the two biggest ones. We come across quite a fair bit on that side, but arrogantly, we do say we can integrate with anything. It's just trying to understand what it is that we're integrating with, how we're integrating, what it is that you guys need to pull through into Intacct, and as I say, even pushing information out of Intacct. So that's enough from me. I'm going to hand over to Hamza. Over to you, Hamza.
Awesome. Thanks, Rory. Okie dokie. So, as Rory mentioned, I'm going to be taking you guys through a little bit of a demo on Sage Intacct this afternoon. It's going to be a relatively high-level demo, but I'll try and go through some of the key bits of functionality that Sage Intacct has to offer. So, I am today going to be working in my test environment here, one of my demo environments. This is a multi-currency, multi-entity environment. So, if we look at the entity selector here, we can see that I've got entities all over the globe. So I've got some in the US, the UK, Australia, South Africa, and Canada, etc. And of course, it is multi-currency as well, so I can transact in any currency in the world. Intacct's capable of handling any of those as required. And I'm going to start us off on this page here, which is what we call a dashboard. Now, dashboards are very, very powerful ways to get a really, really good in-depth insight into what's going on across the business at a really sort of quick overview, right? So you can come onto this page and it has loads of reports already pre-run on it, as well as these little cards here that we call performance cards. And that gives you a really good insight as to what's going on. So this one here is a CFO dashboard, which is what I've named it. And it gives a global view of what's actually going on across all of the different entities that I've got in the system. So this is what you may call a consolidated dashboard, right? Now, in this consolidated dashboard, we're choosing to consolidate everything into the same currency, which in this example is USD. But regardless, you can consolidate into any currency in the world. So if you want to consolidate into pounds or euros or anything else, you're more than welcome to do that as well. So straight across the top there, we've got a nice graph which shows us some key bits. So we've got revenue, total costs, and net income. Again, all color coded. Now, everything you see on this dashboard, of course, is drillable as well. So if you ever needed to drill into anything, you can click on it and that'll drill in, which we'll look at in a second as well. Now, scrolling down a little, we've got things like our total revenue, total labor costs, chargeability, or also known as work in progress, which is what we tend to call it in the UK. Things like operating expenses, etc., and then a few graphs as well, moving on further down, right? Now, this is where we sort of start to introduce you to the dimensional capabilities of Intacct. Now, most finance systems work based on a chart of accounts, and usually companies will just make more chart of accounts as they require. And sometimes you end up with a chart of accounts with 1,000 codes in it, which is, of course, unsustainable. So Intacct looks to introduce something called dimensions. Now, you can see an example of those over here on the right-hand side in this operating expense by department pie chart, where I've actually got my operating expenses split out by the different departments I've set up in the system. So I've got Department of Sales, Marketing, IT, Admin, and Services. And if I hover over it, you can actually see what the figure is. So you can see the Services Department operating expense is actually 924K, which is quite a lot. Admin on 492,000, and so on and so on. If I wanted a better view of what's making up that number, if I was to just click on the services bit here, you can see it pulls out that piece of the pie chart and it opens up a report, which I'll put onto a different page over here. And it shows you what the report is made up of. So we can see, of course, this one's in USD, but you can see it in GBP or in any other currency you need. And you're able to actually really quickly interrogate what's going on in the report and where that number comes from. So there's our number at the bottom there, 924K. And we can see it's made up of all of these different bits and bobs. And these are all my chart of account codes, right? So we can see we spent $28,000 on meals and entertainment in the quarter that ended 31st of December 2019. So if I was to click on this figure, again, it carries on drilling in. So I'll just open this up here. It carries on drilling in to show you the originating general ledger report. And we can see it comes from the GL code or the nominal code 60210. And we can see everything that's gone into there in all of the different currencies that we've posted and what all the actual debits were into that account. Again, I could carry on drilling through if I wanted to. So if we wanted to look at this one here, I could click on that figure. And what that'll do is actually take me down to the originating journal entry that makes up that number. Click it one too many times there. So here we go. Now we can see the originating journal entry that makes up that number, right? And you can see the 700 pages on there. So there's a lot of transactions that have gone in to making up that number. And just from that original dashboard, which I'll go back to, we've been able to drill through and see what's made up that number. Okie doke. And again, that's like sort of the power of dimensions and where they sort of come in into Intacct and how you use this. So we'll explore those a little bit more in a few minutes. But yeah, These dashboards aren't limited to CFOs. You can have them at any sort of level. You can have them at a more granular level if you wish as well. So I'm actually going to drop into an entity for here. So I'm going to work in the United Kingdom entity for today's demo. And in this entity, you can see that I've actually got a dashboard set up here for an accounts receivable manager. I've got loads of dashboards set up in this environment, so we can see I've got loads here, but I've got one here for an AR manager. If I jump into this one has got everything to do with my accounts receivable. So I can see what my AR balance is, what my intercompany receivable is, what my disputed amounts are. I can see some things from my AR trade account, as well as I've got some quick links to just be able to quickly jump in and do something. So if I need to receive a payment or run a customer agent report or anything like that, again, this is all defined by you during implementation with us. So you can choose how this looks, how it works, what you want on it. And again, you get fully trained on how to build these yourself as well. They're super easy to build. So you're able to make as many as you need to suit your business and your company. Okie dokie. So yeah, it's just a really nice example of being able to see what's going on across your company. And you can use it for loads of different types of subject matter experts in your company as well. So you can give it out to your AR clerks, your AP clerks, your CFOs, anybody else in the business who needs to be able to look at this. They can go in and look at it. Okie dokie. All right, so we're going to pivot slightly over to reporting, and I'm going to pop back up to the top level here to have a look at these reports. Now, with Intacct, you get a whole bunch of reports straight out of the box. Now, as Rory mentioned, Intacct works across loads of different verticals, right? So if you're working in a service industry type business, it's really good because it's able to cater to those. So it gives you your standard things like a profit and loss or a balance sheet, etc. But if you're working in an NFP or if your company is an NFP, then we can cater Intacct to work from an NFP perspective. So you get things like a SOFA report or any of the different types of balance sheet reports that you might need to report on. If you need fund reporting, etc., Intacct's able to handle those as well, and we can set those up in Intacct for you. This environment is a service-based environment, but rest assured it's able to handle any different type of vertical that you might need. I do have an example of how it might be used in a sort of NFP way, but we'll come on to that shortly. So let's just run one of these reports as an example. So I'm just going to go ahead and I'll tell you what, I'm going to run this at an entity level so we can see it in GBP. So we'll go over to reports and then report center, and we'll run a profit and loss detail to start with. Let's go with the profit and loss detail, and we'll just run it as of the date that I have data. This is a relatively old demo system. But here we can see a really, really nice and simple profit and loss detail where we've got the year ending balance. We've got year ending for the previous year, 2018, and then we've got our budget. So this is year ending 2019, but this is the budget figures, right? So we can do an actual versus budget comparison for this year, last year, and then the budget for this year as well. And just as you might expect, right at the bottom there, we've got our total profit and loss figure, which in this year looks okay. We've made some progress over previous year, and our budget was 568k, so we're a little bit below that, but that's all right. It's probably still time to make up in this year. Now, everything you see in blue is, of course, drillable. So if you see here, we've got a spot bonus for 2750. If you want to have a look at what that comes from, if you click on it, it'll bring up the report that makes up that number. So I'll just pop it over here on a different page. So we can see this is the report that it brings up, and you can see all the individual entries that went in to make up that 2750. And again, you can carry on drilling through if you want, right the way down to the originating journal entry. And if it's an invoice, then you go right the way down to the invoice. Okie dokie. Now, the reports are good, and you also get 2 financial report writers in the system that, again, you also get trained on how to use. Right? So if I wanted to adjust this report and add potentially a month-on-month comparison, I could very easily do that as well if I wanted to. So in fact, what I'll do is I will grab a brand new report. Let's just build a brand new report from scratch so you guys can see how easy it is to do. And in the financial report right there, again, you give them full training on how to use this. And I'm just going to call this a P&L month-on-month, right? Awesome. And then in my rows, everything is already preset for you when you do get access to Intacct. So, and again, you go through a really bespoke implementation process with us at Vision 33. So we make sure you know exactly how to use it and what you need to do on there. So I'm going to do something super simple where I say, I want the reporting period for the column to be the current year, and I want you to expand it by a time period, and the time period is months. Hit set. And then let's just make sure we've got the right filter set. We do. Awesome. I can just set this and this and this also, and then I can press save and done. Alrighty. So just like that, I've been able to put together a really, really simple profit and loss. Now, if we run it, here we go. So go ahead and click on run on that. And I'm going to run this for my United Kingdom entity, which I'm already in. Press OK. Just like that, I've been able to build a very detailed profit and loss, which shows me a month-on-month comparison for all of the different months across the year. Now, I've run this as of today, so there is some data in this year, but if I just change it to 2019 where I know there is data. So if we just go to 2019, 31st of December, awesome, and run this then, we should get a little bit more detail here. Awesome. So we can see January, February, March, all the way until the end of the year, which was December, and we can see a full month-on-month comparison. Now you can do the same thing with dimensions as well. So if you wanted to take a month and expand it out by departments or your different types of funds or anything like that, super easy to do. So just in the same way that I expanded this by a time period, you could choose to expand it by departments. So I'll show you guys that as well. It's super simple. So instead of expanding by month, I would just say expand by my, let's say, departments and press set. And we'll just go ahead and hit save on that. And if I just go ahead and refresh this report, instead of expanding by months, it's now expanding by departments. Alrighty. So literally just a couple of clicks and I'm producing some incredibly powerful reports straight out of Intacct, which could be used for your month-end accounting. Okie dokie. So we're going to pivot here slightly and move over to doing some invoicing. Alrighty, so for this, I'm going to jump into accounts receivable. And again, we're going to bring into play a little bit more on dimensions. So I'm just going to go over to AR sales invoices. And it's always helpful to see what an invoice looks like or what the entry looks like for an invoice in a new system. So yeah, here it is in Intacct. It's relatively simple. It shouldn't be anything out the blue, anything crazy compared to what you've currently got, potentially a different layout, but again, it's just about adjusting to a new system. So for this one, I'm going to raise a brand new invoice to Hamza's stationery shop. Now, I don't need to know the ID or anything. I can just search the name and it comes up, which is great. We do also have this button here that says populate from last invoice. So if I click that, it'll just go find the last invoice for Hamza's stationery shop and just populate all the details for me. I'm going to raise a new one from scratch, so I'm not going to use that. And in the description, I'm just going to put Hamza demo test, let's say 10. Okie dokie. And here we've got our term and due date. So I could just say, okay, due upon receipt. It will figure out the due date for me. And of course, I can add an attachment to this if I need to, which I will do. So let me just find something here that we could add. Awesome. Here's an invoice for some headphones. So I can literally just drag and drop straight onto the screen there. And what it'll do is it'll add the attachment for me. So if we make this a bit bigger, we can see there's the headphones invoice. I just need to give it an ID. So we'll just say invoice for headphones. And I'll just store it in my receipts folder. I'm happy with that and hit save. Awesome. So we can see that attachment is now there. If I click on the paperclip, it'll actually show me what the attachment is. It's open onto another page there. So I'll just pop it over here. And here you guys can see what the attachment is, and it's obviously in the system there, and it can be held there as long as you need. Okie doke. That was an expensive day for me buying those headphones, but hey ho, there you go. Awesome. So that attachment's on there. Now down in the line, just before we get to the actual nominal code, etc., you're able to choose which currency you want to transact in. So you can choose to transact in any currency in the world. I've only got a handful set up in this system, and we're going to keep it super easy today and go with GBP. But equally, if I wanted to transact in USD, I could press USD, and the system will adjust immediately to pull up the rate for the USD as of today. Now, Intacct uses something called the Intacct Daily Rate, which is a live rate pulled every single day. I think it's at 6 a.m. UTC, which is our time zone in the UK. And it's pulled from a website called Oanda, which is a really reputable website. If you don't want to use Oanda, it's absolutely fine. You can use your own rates. You can use custom rates, where you can either type in your own rate, or we can upload rates from the Bank of England or any other website you prefer to use, xe.com, anything like that. Okie doke. But again, I'm going to keep it simple today. We're just going to go with GBP, and we're just going to leave it on the Intacct Daily Rate, which of course is 1 because it's a GBP-based currency company. Then we can do the easy bit, which is selecting the lines, right? So here, I'm just going to go with a nice, simple revenue code. So let's just go with revenue services. Now, again, typically, what you would have is if you wanted to categorize this into a certain type of revenue, you'd have to have different chart of account codes for it. But now with Intacct, what you can do is you can pop in your amount. So I'll go with £1,000, and you can actually categorize it by department or class or fund or anything else that you might want to in the system. Again, all defined by you during implementation. So I could say, right, this is a revenue made in the services department. And if I actually click on the show details drop down, you can see how many additional dimensions I have. And that's what gives you that really, really fine granularity when it comes to categorizing transactions in Intacct. Okey-doke. So I could say this also falls under a specific project, or it also falls against a specific employee, or a specific warehouse, or a specific contract, or a specific fund, right? Now, again, you can rename any of these. So I could say, okay, this is a type of restricted fund or unrestricted fund that we're making money against. Similarly, you can use this on the purchase side as well, which we'll come on to again shortly. But I could say this falls into unrestricted fund, right? And I could just go ahead, hide the detail there. Of course, you've got your UK VAT. And as Rory mentioned earlier, Intacct is fully VAT compliant, especially for NFPs as well. So if you do need to be partially exempt, we can handle that as well in Intacct. And the system does that all automatically for you. You don't have to do any manual adjustments or anything like that. Once you're happy, you can go ahead and click on post, and the system will post the invoice straight into the ledger for you, which we can see there. Okey-doke. From here, you can go ahead and apply a payment. You can print the invoice and send it out if you want to. So we'll bring it up so we can have a look at it. I don't think I've designed any of these layouts, so this is just a very standard one in the system, but we would build a bespoke one for you, which we always do for every customer we implement. So it's, again, very, very simple example here. But yeah, you can make these as bespoke as you need. Okie doke. And as you can see, we could equally email these out to whoever we want straight from Intacct. Alrighty. So that's how you get an invoice into the system. Nice and easy, really nothing too strenuous there. And again, just to prove how that reporting works there with the dimensions, I categorized this transaction into the, where are we, the fund type, unrestricted fund, right? So if I was to now run a report on unrestricted funds, I could go to my report center here, and I could say run a profit and loss by department, run it as of today. Oh, I don't have a filter here for fund type. So let me just quickly adjust this to add a filter for fund type, and you guys will be able to see how easy this is. So I can just quickly click edit, filters, and give me a prompt for fund type. We'll take this out and just hit save and done. Awesome. So if we run this again by department, now we have a filter for fund type. Again, as you saw, very easy for me to do. Run this as of today. I'm going to run this for unrestricted funds, right? Hit OK. And now I'm able to see all the money that has gone into whichever department and by that certain element that I selected, which was unrestricted funds, which we can see it's £1,000 gone into the services department. But remember, I filtered this by unrestricted funds. So we're now able to see that 1,000 that I entered. If I click on it, we should be able to see that invoice that I posted, which we can. Awesome, there he is. 29th of the 10th, invoice 500, it was for £1,000. Again, I could carry on drilling into that, and it'll take us back down to the originating invoice, which we can see there last modified by me today. Alrighty, so as simple as that when it comes to reporting by different dimensions in the system and actually getting out really valuable reports, which make all the difference when it comes to month-end accounting and things like that. Okie dokie. Awesome. So again, we're going to pivot slightly and head over to the flip side of that coin, which is purchasing and procurement. Now, it depends how complex your business is. So you may want to go down a purchase order system route, or you might just want really, really simple accounts payable purchase invoices, which again, you're more than welcome to do. Now, just for the purposes of example, I'm going to show you a purchase order system. In this environment, I have got set up loads of different workflows. All right. So I hope this doesn't overwhelm you on the screen, but I'm going to walk you through it. And again, it's all purely for demo purposes. So here you can see that all of my workflows start from purchase requisition. From purchase requisition, I'm able to convert that to a purchase order inventory, or I can convert it to a purchase order with spend management, or a blanket PO, or just a normal PO. Okay, doke. If I was to convert down here to a normal PO, after that, the normal route is fulfillment, or I can go straight to an invoice. And from an invoice, if I ever need to return something or debit it, i.e. credit it, I can do that as well. Okie doke. So this can be as simple or as complex as you'd like it to be. And this is fully bespoke again. So it's designed by you for you in your company. Okie doke. Now, as an example, I do have one set up here. So I'm going to head over to my requisitions. And here's one I set up earlier, which was for a new laptop. Now, the entry screens look exactly the same as what you've just seen. So very, very similar sort of look. You select the supplier, you can tag a project if you'd like, add an attachment, etc. If we click on the paperclip, it'll show you the attachment and you can put in your reference, etc. And then select your GL codes, your departments, your fund types, anything else you need to categorize by. Pop your price in, and then you can go ahead and press submit. Alrighty. Now with a purchase order system, you can of course apply a nice approval process as well, which is you're probably going to need one if you need a purchase order system. Now in this system, I do have a approval policy set up, and you can see what happened in my approval policy. So I had a 2-stage approval policy, but you can have one as complex or as comprehensive as you require. You can have 10 stages, 20 stages, it's completely up to you. All right. But mine was nice and easy. The first person I needed to approve this purchase requisition was Emma. So she went ahead and approved that. And then straight after that, because it was over a certain value, I needed another approval by someone who is a value approver, right? Now a name doesn't appear because I may have 3 or 4 or 5 value approvers in the same range, right? So for that, it went off to a value approver. I went ahead and approved both of these just to get it through. But then from there, I'm able to convert that requisition to a purchase order. Once it gets to purchase order stage, it's exactly the same. You can see the entry screen looks identical. It brings everything over for you, so you don't actually have to type anything in. And then straight from the system, you can press print or email and send this straight out to your supplier. Okie doke. You can apply approvals to purchase orders as well if you'd like. It's completely up to you. From there, if you want to do a fulfillment to say that you've received the item, you can. But I went straight over to a supplier invoice. So in my supplier invoice, here's the invoice here. So if we click on that, we can see that everything's exactly the same. The only difference is that I've got my 20% VAT on this, and then I hit post, and that posts it to the ledger. Once it's in the ledger, I can go ahead and make a payment to this as I normally would. Okie doke. So it'll be on my accounts payable ledger here somewhere. Once it pops up, in here somewhere will be my invoice. Okie doke. I can go ahead and pay that. So that's pretty much an end-to-end workflow with a purchase order system in Intacct. Again, super bespoke, so you can design it however you'd like, and it's completely up to you. Cool stuff. Now, again, I'm going to pivot slightly and pop back up to the top level here. Now, another really, really big thing, especially if you're working in a multi-currency, multi-entity environment, is being able to consolidate all of your ledgers from all of your different companies into the same currency at the end of the month to be able to do consolidated reporting. Now, Intacct, again, looks to alleviate that using something called global consolidations or domestic consolidations, right? Now, with consolidations, you can set up as many different consolidation books as takes your fancy. In this environment, I've got 4 set up here, and they all do different things. So this book here consolidates all of my entities into GBP. This one consolidates all of my entities into USD. This one does all of my North America locations, and this one does all of my non-USA locations. Okie doke. As an example, I'll show you this one here, which is for global into GBP. And we can see we've got that set up there, and what it's going to do is convert all of my different transactions from my multiple different entities here into the same currency, which is GBP, using the Intacct daily rate. The translation method for balance sheet accounts is ending spot rate. And for my income statement, it's a weighted average rate. Any currency exchange gain or loss will be posted into these GL codes here, respectively. Over on the entities to consolidate, these are the entities that I'm choosing to consolidate. And also a really key bit here is that I've enabled inter-entity auto-elimination. Now that is massive when it comes to consolidation. So if you have done consolidation before, that's a huge step, and that's potentially life-changing, especially if you do a lot of inter-entity transactions. Intacct will handle all of those for you. You don't have to touch it at all. And at point of consolidation, it will auto-eliminate them as well. And it auto-eliminates them into this entity, which again, we set up with you. So you can actually track them as well if you need to see how much was eliminated. Any adjustments that happen in the eliminations can be posted into a designated GL code. Okie doke. Over on journals and accounts override, we can skip over that. Here on your elimination accounts, these are all my due to and due from accounts, which again, if you're familiar with inter-entity transactions, you'll know exactly what these are. These are all your payable and receivables from between entities, and the system is going to eliminate all of those on its own for you. You can also choose to eliminate extra if you need. Okie doke. That's the setup. Now, running a consolidation is even easier than setting one up. You just go to run consolidation, select the month you want to consolidate for, press consolidate, and that's it. Wait for it to turn successful, and then you can go ahead and run your reports from a consolidated perspective. You can run any report in the system in a consolidated manner. So if I head back over to my report center, and I'm just going to randomly pick any report here. So let's just go with this profit and loss by item. Here you can see that at the minute it's going to report by accrual book. But if I wanted to report this by my consolidated book, all I have to do is just change the reporting method to global GBP, press OK. I don't think there's any data in that month, so we'll just run it as of today. Press OK, and it will show you your consolidated book. In this case, there was no data, but you get the gist that you're able to see a consolidated view of all your transactions in the same entity. This is a demo system, so there's no data in certain months, which is why there's nothing coming up. But hopefully you get the gist of what I'm doing there. Really quickly able to chop and change the type of reporting method here to suit what you're actually looking for. Okie doke. You can actually set your consolidation off to run pre-scheduled, so it can actually just consolidate for you. So you don't have to even go in there and select the button. And you can just do that by clicking on this recurrence section here and setting up a recurrence automatically in the system. Okie doke. Now, the final thing I want to show you guys here is bank feeds and bank reconciliation. Now, Intacct is fully capable of supporting bank feeds from pretty much any bank in the world. If Intacct can't support it, we are listed on the Intacct marketplace, plus we can help you find a third party who can support bank feed, but it's very unlikely that Intacct can't support a feed. It can do pretty much anything in the world, which is amazing. And then what happens with that feed is you get direct live feed straight into Intacct from your real life bank account. This is, of course, a demo system, so I don't have a real feed connected, but I do have a dummy one connected. So you can see that here. But inside a reconciliation screen, which is what this is, again, should look very similar to an accounting system that you've currently got. Nothing too crazy. You see your transactions on the system side, and you see your transactions on the bank side. You press match on either the system side or the bank side. So I could say, right, here's my transaction came in from conductor, press match. It'll show you the opposite side. You find the corresponding transaction, check the box, make sure the remaining to match is 0, and then hit match. Okie doke. When you do that, it takes it off the list on both sides, and then you just chip away at it until the amount to reconcile is 0. Alrighty, just as simple as that. You can have a look at everything you've matched as well by going to matched, and you can see these are all the transactions that I've matched, which I'm now all going to just bulk unmatch, put them back into unmatched state, and then yeah, you can just continue on with your transactions from there. Okie doke. Real nice and simple, but that's all done by having a feed connected. If you don't have a feed connected, if you don't want to connect a feed, that's fine. You can just upload a bank statement as you traditionally would, or have it open on another screen in your bank account. It's completely up to you, but it's really nice having it look straight into the system because you can just really quickly match stuff off and get your bank recs done. Alrighty. Cool stuff. So that is pretty much everything from me today. That's a very, very high level overview of Intacct. I would recommend having a bespoke demo, a focus demo for you if you are interested in Intacct, and we can make it a lot more tailored, ask a lot more questions and things like that. But yeah, if you have any questions, feel free to put them into the Q&A box and I'll be happy to answer them.
Brilliant. Thank you, Hamza. Yeah, so we've got one. Is it possible to part bill a PO?
Yeah, absolutely. Real good question. You can call them partial conversions, what we call them in Intacct. And you can absolutely do that. So I can show you a quick walkthrough of that. I hope I've got it set up in that way in the system, which I should do anyway. But if we've got a purchase order here, so we've got this one here, which is, that one's actually already partly converted. So we can see there was 5 and only 3 have been billed. So that one's still got 2 left on it to be billed, but I can press convert again and convert them to an invoice, and it should bring up the final two, which it has done. So we can see that quantity two. Of those two, if I only want to build one of them, I can just change that quantity to one. It'll adjust all the pricing, and then I can hit post, and it will leave one remaining on the PO, and there's one being invoiced. So yeah, absolutely, you can do that.
Good question, thank you. Is the education module different to include billing of non-fee items like clubs, etc.?
Is the education module different to include billing of non-fees items like clubs, etc.? I think the education module, correct me if I'm wrong, Rory, is different to this version of Intacct. Might be one you have to pick up offline with Evelyn there.
Yeah, I would need to look into. There is actually a education bespoke module for Sage Intacct, but I'll take that away and come back to you because I don't recall seeing one. But yeah, something we can come back to you on. If we wanted to integrate with a software you don't yet integrate with, how long would it take to set that up? I can do that. Take that one, Hamza. Yeah, so if there is a software that doesn't integrate with Intacct, so 2 examples, it doesn't sit on the Sage Intacct marketplace, or the other software themselves have said they can't, we would just need to understand the scope of the work. So I think, as I said in the presentation, is we work on the premise of workflow. So typically a workflow is, it's a data package being transferred from that system to Intacct. And again, if we need to push anything out of Intacct back to the other system, so it would just be a statement of work call where you meet the members of the Saltbox delivery team, and then they would give you an estimate. I can't tell you for definite because every integration is different. If it was an integration with one of those industry connectors that we already have, and your integration is something that we've done already, then it's going to be a lot faster to do. So yeah, it's very much a question of just needing to scope that out, and then we can give you an idea. What I will add though is that once we've understood it, we will then estimate how much it's going to cost and the number of hours, and we work on a time and materials basis for our integration as well. And
there was one other question there, which was, what's the inventory system like? How does it link to Shopify and an external warehouse? I've just linked there for you the Intacct Marketplace, which is a really, really good place to start when it comes to integrations. Things like Shopify have direct integrations with Intacct, and we can also integrate to your external warehouse. But as long as it has an open API, there'll either be already an existing integration, or you can use Saltbox, which is just behind me here, to do that integration for you. But the inventory system in Intacct is incredibly capable. So there's multiple tiers of inventory management and advanced inventory and things like that. But yeah, we've got a really good history with inventory management environments.
Yeah, and just to expand on that, we do have customers who've already integrated Shopify to Intacct and the inventory module via Saltbox. So again, if your requirements are very similar, it's a lot faster for us to do. But of course, everyone's is different. But yeah, it's something that we've seen already. Do you have your own invoice scanning solution, or do you use others?
I think that's AP automation, right? So yeah, Sage do have their own AP automation scanning software. So we can set that up, and you can actually just forward your emails and forward your invoices straight to an email address, and that the system reads it using AI. So it's got machine learning as well. So once you've taught it something once, you can just use that same logic the next time around. And once it's read the invoice, it'll code it for you in the system, attach any cost centers, departments, anything like that, and post it into the system ready for you to process for you. And it works really, really well. Again, we've got loads of customers using it and they're super happy. If the Sage one isn't enough, there's loads of marketplace partners who are available to integrate with Intacct, and they all offer a very similar solution.
Yeah, does it handle all aspects of CIS and reverse charging VAT?
So construction industry scheme, you have to get an additional module for, but yes, it can handle that. And reverse charge, absolutely, yeah. Reverse charge, super easy. It can absolutely handle reverse charge, so fully compliant for reverse charge there. But CIS is an additional module for that.
Yeah, it would be part of your subscription, as Hamza said. So Intacct doesn't do that natively. It's just a module that we would add on to a subscription. But yeah, it does it. I think that might be all of the questions. But as I said, we will be in touch anyway. And if you want to sort of book a further call in with us, you will definitely be able to. I think we'll leave it there then, guys, because there's no other questions that have sort of coming through, but we've had some really good questions asked already. So thank you for your time, and thank you everybody for your time this afternoon. I hope it was worthwhile, and really hope that we get to continue the conversations with some of you in the meantime. So take care, everyone.